Yeah.
Technology is wonderful, isn't it?
Right, it is.
Not really sure what's going on with that countdown thing, but I guess we'll figure it out later.
I hope so.
Maybe. So
Yeah.
hello.
We're here.
Who knew it was so hard to count down from 60?
I should have known because the Surger one last week, it did
weird things.
It had a glitch, and which is why it ended up not being up. So,
interesting.
I love
Hello,
technology.
Miss D and Shirley. Hello,
Yes.
hello.
It's
So yeah, every once in a while, if we don't have a problem, we wouldn't know it was live.
true. All right. So, hopefully we have voice and you can hear us.
Yep.
And it's Tuesday again.
It is already Tuesday.
Yes.
Hi, Mary. So yeah, we're going to talk software again today.
We
A whole
are.
different topic, but we're going to talk software today. But did you sew it all this weekend?
I did not. I did touch my sewing machine, but only because I moved it.
Well, you're ahead of me. I went in my sewing room, but only to get something out of it. I didn't actually sew this weekend. I bought some things.
Yeah, that counts, right?
I bought some things to sew with, but the sewing project that I'm working on, I was at a standstill, so I needed to get a few things that we don't have here, so I had to go to the J word. Yeah.
That's so much fun.
Yeah, then $40 later,
Right? I know. And whenever you go there, there's always some conversation that's going on that you know is wrong.
Uh-huh.
And
I just put the blinders on and don't
It's like-
look or don't talk to anybody.
Right.
Don't look at anything that, I tried to just look. So I had to hit the clearance rack in the back after our conversation.
yeah.
I thought, well, maybe there'll be some paper back there. And so I did find a couple things that I had to buy, of course. And I had a 20% off clearance coupon in my app. So
Yeah.
I bought a couple things for our calendar. And yeah, but the items that I needed were like $3 items.
Right.
And, $40 later, I'm out the door.
Yeah. I went to the home goods store
Oh,
yesterday.
that would be dangerous for me.
I have never been to the one in Ann Arbor before. And wow, I said to Dave when he got in the car yesterday, I said, I just want to be clear. I did leave some stuff at the store.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a little while for very good reason because I can get in so much trouble in that store. It's just, yeah, it's bad.
It is so bad.
It's funny, since we moved, I don't decorate my house like I used to decorate the old house. It's just not set up.
Same.
There's nowhere to put stuff like I used to have at the old house. It's arranged very differently. There's not the spots for it. It's just very, very different. So we decorate for Christmas and that's like about it. Part of
Yeah.
it's that the kids were younger
Sure.
at the old house. And so, they wanted to do all of this other stuff. So we made it work. But all of my Easter decor is in a very large tote downstairs. And I haven't pulled it out since we moved.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. But so it's been easier not to buy
Right. Because you're not.
because I don't put it out.
Right.
But I have more pillows than any one sane person should.
Oh my God, they had the cutest
I love pillows. I love blankets.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
more blankets than any one sane person, though I do use them both because I sit on the couch. Even when I'm working on my computer, I have a little lap desk that, that's
Yeah.
my workspace or whatnot. And I always have a blanket on because it's always cold for me. My husband likes it way colder than I do, so I'm always cold.
Yeah.
Imagine that. And so, it's
Yeah.
dangerous. I love candles.
I bought my first 2-tiered tray to decorate because I'm obsessed with those Ray Dunn mugs that have the cute sayings on them. Dave hates drinking out of them because he says it's a left-handed cup and not a right-handed cup. And it doesn't matter to me because I just move the cup around wherever, right? Pick it up whichever hand.
Sure.
So I have all these cute saying ones, and he hates them. He absolutely just hates to drink out of them.
That's
so
fantastic.
the cupboard is full of them. So when I was like, look, now you don't have to drink out of them, but I still
They're
can
all in
collect them. They're in the little tray next to the coffee maker. So yeah, I was super excited to get that yesterday. Oh.
I have a whole section of the kitchen counter of cups like this.
Yes.
And Jeff's like, if I come home with a new one, oh, I get yelled at.
Yeah. So
He's like, another one?
Exactly.
It's like, I'm going to decorate this one. I'm
Yeah.
going to, I've got plans for it.
I've got plans for it.
I've got plans for it. He's like,
Yeah.
so now I'm like,
Now you gotta
I
hide
want to
the-
laser them.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I bought glasses so I can try to glass etch with the new laser. And,
Yeah.
and I've got, he's just like, he just shakes his head now. He's given up yelling. He knows
Yeah.
it doesn't get him anywhere. He just shakes his head.
Yeah, but I had 2 new coffee mugs yesterday to go with the little thing.
To go on the
to go
stand.
on the stand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I did clear out
Absolutely.
a whole space in the cabinet. I'm like, what can I fit in there now?
Please.
Right.
Speaking of.
Yeah. So yeah, I was, and then of course I had to go to TJ Maxx because Dave wasn't done working yet.
It's terrible. So
I know.
Sorry.
I'm like, why do I? He's like, you should come into the city with me and you can like putz around. And I'm like, if I come in, I'm gonna go to these stores and I'm gonna spend all of my money. And so I spent all of my money.
It's his fault.
It's totally his fault.
Totally his fault.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
that was what I did yesterday. And then we went for a walk in the rain. It wasn't raining, and then it was, and then it wasn't, and then that was
Did
our
you
exciting
sing?
day. I did not sing. No, there was
Shame.
no singing in the rain.
That's a shame.
There was more of me going, I thought you said it wasn't going to rain.
There was complaining in the
There
rain.
was complaining in the rain.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Alrighty then.
Oh, Cindy asks, what kind of work do our husbands do? Mine is an inspector for the city of Ann Arbor here.
And mine supervises the merchandising team for Lowe's. He oversees 4 different stores, so he works midnights. So I get to do whatever I want during the day, and I can sneak just about anything into the house, which is fantastic.
Yeah, there was no sneaking yesterday. None whatsoever.
Yeah. So yeah, he's gone to work before I get home, and I'm getting up as he's going to sleep in the morning. So we, ships passing in the night kind of thing works really well.
It's good for your marriage
And it's
sometimes,
very
right?
good. It's funny because the first year of our marriage was also like that. So I worked at McDonald's, as you guys know, at McDonald's a long time ago. And I worked the 4 a.m. to 1 shift, and he worked from 2 to 11.
Ah.
And I also went to school. That was my senior year of college. So so we didn't see each other much because I was obviously in bed when he came home. I
Right.
was hopefully sleeping because I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to work. And so, yeah, we didn't see much. So we joke that, the only reason we're still together is because we never saw each other that first year. They say that first year is the hardest. We never fought because we never saw each other.
Right.
So,
So you sailed through
We sailed
it.
through that first year with no problem. So,
Yeah.
it's not the truth, of course, but it's nice to joke about.
It is, yes.
So,
Okay, so we
All
are
right.
going to talk software today.
so I have.
Monograms.
What do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of stuff opened on my computer. So we're going to quickly go through the different kinds, and then we'll talk a little bit more in detail about not all of them. We'll focus in on a little bit more, because there's no way we can talk about 5 in an hour. Well, 45 minutes.
Right.
So we will focus in a little bit, like I said, on specific types. So please feel free to ask questions as we go through, and Sarah will try to monitor that as I'm staring at the screen
I
here.
will.
So
All right, we're going to...
let us know. Hey, look at that number.
Yay!
So where should we start?
All right.
All right, so there's my beautiful computer screen, and I've got all of these lovelies down here. So the first thing that I'm going to pull up is, just get rid of that guy. We have our Dime software, and in Dime, this is the embroidery tool shed, and this is, what do they call it? Perfect Embroidery Pro, I believe is the technical name for their embroidery software.
Otherwise known as PEP.
Otherwise known as PEP. There is...
you know what? Really quickly, just so in case, while she's looking for what she's looking for over on the side, Toolshed is their new program. It's kind of like an umbrella program.
Yep.
So if you've recently updated your software and you can't find your icon anymore, now it looks like it's like a little T and an S. So
it's this guy right over here, all the way underneath our Leabu sign. That's super helpful. Let me move it to here. So that is the ETS is what the new logo looks like on your screen for your shortcut.
Yep.
So it's that little guy right there
some
up at
people
the top center.
Lost it when they did updates, but that's it. So any of the Dime software that you purchase, it all ends up being underneath that same little program tab.
And then once you're in there, so if you were to download, anybody can download actually Toolshed. You don't actually have to own software to download the Toolshed, because that's just kind of like the house that keeps all of the different softwares in it. And the Toolshed will allow you to do some coloring and will convert. So that will do some of those things for you. Down in that lower right-hand corner, way over here, down the bottom right, if you click on the shopping cart logo, which is this little green guy down here, it will give you all of the different types that are available. So all of those different guys there. So in blue, right here, it says Perfect Embroidery Pro, also known as PEP. And you can see that I have that activated by the check mark. There's some little dots over there. And when I click on those, I can make that the default, and I can look at the manual. I can do all of those different things. So by making that one my default, that makes all of the symbols up at the top of the screen that program's buttons. For lack of a better word. But these are all of the different types of softwares that are available from Dime, and that's where all of those would be located. So if you're toggling between different softwares and you wanted different buttons to pop up, that is where you would choose that different one down there. So if you do have more than one, that is where you would find them. All right. So I am in just the standard full version, but just the standard embroidery software, not in any of their specialized types. And over here in the upper right hand, you've got T and you have an M, and those are going to be the text pieces. And the M stands for, you guessed it, monograms. So when I click on that, I then need to come somewhere on my big white surface here and click. And what that's going to do is give me a box of a monogram, and it automatically fills in ABC. So then I would need to change those to be whatever monogram it is that I'm looking for. So I have a really fancy one myself. My parents went way out of the box, and my first and middle initial are the same. So thanks, Mom. Makes everything super easy. It also balances my monogram quite nicely, though. So I don't have like a huge M middle name and then an I first name or something. So it does make it balanced very, very easily, which is actually nice when it comes to a monogram. And then I need to hit the apply button, which is going to be right over here, and it will change those letters very easily. So boom, there it would be my monogram in that font that popped up there. Right above that apply, you can see the type, and it says monogram. So I can actually come out of the monogram type and change what that would look like. But since we're doing monograms, we're going to leave it right in there. So it's super easy to change what that monogram would look like. I could just go to a different font, and when I click on the different fonts, it automatically would change what that would look like. So super easy to toggle through and get a different view. So lots and lots of very easy to add in those changes. Obviously, some things are going to look better than others. It's just a matter of what you would like. The little TT box right here stands for True Type. If I click on that, when I click on the font box now, I would get a box that pops up. I'm going to just move that over here. And that will give me the different fonts that I have in my True Type options, which those are the ones that I have added into my Windows font folder in the computer. So there are quite a few in mine, though I have gone through and gotten rid of some of them because it was getting a little bit crazy. I can see the sample of what that would look like, and when I hit OK, then it would then change. That big box goes away and it automatically changes it.
So Mary asked, is there an applique font with satin stitches?
So those are all pretty much going to be a satin stitch.
At this point, because it is a font, it usually will do a satin stitch automatically.
Applique.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I didn't hear
okay.
that
I
part.
read it the same way.
I apologize.
An applique font with satin stitches, so not a blanket stitch.
So not built into this one. There is probably somewhere, but not here that I can think of. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Monogram. They usually have it'll tell you if it's going to. So we've got some puffy, which is awesome if anybody uses puffy foam underneath there. Not the question you were asking, but since I was across there, I thought I would point that out. So there's quite a bit of puffy letters built in here, which is a specialized type of stitch, which is good to know. The M's stand for different types of monograms. I'm not seeing them. Trying to think if there's.
That looks like.
As I say, that one might be. Let me change. It doesn't give me the. It's not giving me the breakdown, so I'm thinking that it's not. It just happens to be in a circle.
But we do have other software.
Yep.
And
So
we can.
two colors. I'm not seeing anything popping up, Mary. It's a great question, and I feel like there is somewhere, but not here. I'm not seeing that as an option. You certainly could create that, but it's not. I'm not seeing it as an option here.
Someone suggested that it might be in the patch software.
And that definitely would be an option as well. But again, we're just sticking with one type of dime today because I'm going to talk about a whole bunch.
Yep. So not that we can see right off.
There's nothing that's triggering based on the name of the fonts. Lots of monogramming. There's a lot of monogram options here, some with designs around them. Ooh, that was not what I was looking for. So there's lots of things that are monogram specific, but not anything that I'm seeing that's applique in here. So if you have something that is artwork, you could turn something into applique. So if it was a straight line, we could go there, but that's another lesson. So let's keep going, and I'll tell you if I can find one in another software as well. And whomever, I don't know if that's Pam on whoever the PS is, you are absolutely right. It's very possible that it's in Patch or somewhere else, but
Not in the built-in monogram
not in the
section.
built-in monogram section here. So,
Okay.
All right. So when you are going through, I'm sorry, I moved the mouse.
That's okay.
I looked up and my screen changed. I apologize. So when we are going through those, we're going to change the font type, and you can again change the size. And there's lots of those font options, but there's no symbols and things separately that are built into the basic embroidery. And you'll see what I mean when we get there in some of these other
Yes.
other pieces. This here is Floriani's. It is called FTCU. It is a little bit different, though it looks very, very similar. There is a lot more buttons on screen here because when they lumped all of their softwares together, they just put a whole bunch of stuff on the screen. So they didn't separate things out. The one big difference that Floriani has, they have what they call their one-click wonder pieces along the bottom down here. So I'm going to get rid of this off my screen. When I click on the text here, I have different choices, which of course, one of them is that beautiful M again, which stands for monogram. This is going to be a very similar aspect. I click somewhere in my workspace. This could be plain white or gridded, depending upon what your preferences are. When I click there, it automatically clicks into the ABC, just like the previous. But you'll notice that the box over here on the right looks a little bit different. So their setup is a little bit different. I can change the letters and I would put them in the order that I want them in. So I'm not doing first, middle, last, unless that is how I want them to appear. But the way this is set up, that middle initial there that you're seeing on screen is your last name initial. That is the one that is larger, and it is, it's the same way everywhere for this. The center position is intended to be the last name initial.
Right.
So you would want to have your last name initial be in the center when you're typing in the letters. There are some other spots that you can choose different positioning for. This is not one of them. All right. So this is going to automatically fill in, as you can see. I'm going to make that bigger. Give me just a second because I have to switch off. All right. When we are in the fonts, we can again choose those font different options very, very easily. When we choose, we hit apply and it will automatically change. We can change the spacing between the letters. We can do all of those wonderful different things. It's just a matter of what we're looking for. When I'm in my font tools, I can play a little bit. It just depends on where you're at in there. So resizing all of those base pieces, it's going to matter what it is that you're looking at. This is very, very similar. We're just going to scroll through. You can see some of these things. This is a garden, something or other. We've got a little bit of a curve. We can add some decor on this if we like it. There you go. That doesn't look very good. But we can add those different things if we like the different areas around here. I personally like the little bit of scroll underneath, but you can add in here. So some of them you can see that took away my accent because this font does not support that accent. So if I choose a area that gives me that, so you can see that in that picture there, that one supports it, but they don't all. This one does. So if I click on that, you'll see that I have some decor options with that, and I can then go through and choose whichever one floats my boat. When I click apply, I can have that decor option there if I want. So this monogram setup is a little bit different. I have some decor things, but not on every font. It does depend on which pieces that I'm looking for. I do have the ability to do sizing. I want to say it was about three to 4 years ago, they made some changes. They put an update through that shows you the size right on the screen here. I have to say I really like that. It's very helpful not to have to look in other spots on the screen to see what size it is that you're working with. So that is a really nice piece, being able to see exactly what you have in front of you. So, you know, if you're trying to stay in that 4x4 hoop, rather than having to have your hoop on screen, you can just look right there and say, oh, well, I need to make that a little bit smaller. And so it's much easier to do that on here and make those changes. When we are looking at the breakouts here, I can see I have 2 different fonts, colors that I can play with. If I wanted to change colors, it's very easy to make those adjustments. So the software is pretty simple to work through. It's just a matter of knowing where to click, which obviously the more you play with the softwares, the easier it gets to move through the different ones. It does get confusing if you try to have 5 different ones on your screen at the same time, because which one does which. It sometimes takes you a little bit to go, now which one was that again?
Exactly.
So as fun as it is to have a whole bunch of them, I don't know that we would recommend that on a normal basis. So we do it because we have to, of course, teach you guys and try to answer all of your questions. But
Yes.
I don't know that I
A lot
would.
of brain power.
It is a lot to be able to flow through so many different ones.
Cindy asked a question. Can you buy fonts and I think she means put them in the software. We were on the other software when this originally came up. I think the real answer is they're looking, she's asking if they can be like imported in as a standard, like a regular TrueType font.
Yep. So if, for instance, you are looking for a embroidery applique. So like Mary's question is, is there an applique font with satin stitches? If you can't find something that's there, but you did go and buy one, what that would be would, instead of it being like letters that you would type in, each file would be a separate letter. If you are looking at something that is a TrueType font, then you can buy that, install that into your Windows font file. So real quick, I'm going to just open that window up. When you go to your local disk, if you're on Windows, of course, I don't do Apple enough to be able to walk you through that. I'm sorry, but I know there's a font file there. I just don't know where exactly to tell you to look. Go to your Finder and click open a bunch of folders.
Yes.
All right, but in Windows, you're going to go to your Windows folder, and then there is a folder literally named Fonts, and you can install new fonts in here. Now, as you can see, I have a whole lot, and that's because I have added in a lot of fonts. So when I'm going through that TrueType, when I have selected TrueType options, I have a lot of additional options that didn't come with my computer and did not come with my softwares. So I have purchased all of these. Most of them I have purchased because of my cutting machine, because my cutting machine can make anything look good.
Right.
Software, when it comes to embroidery, it's iffy. It depends on what it is that you're trying to get it to do, whether it's going to come out great or not. But this is where I would be able to find my my fonts and where I could put more fonts in to purchase them and add them in from that perspective. If you are looking to bring in a actual embroidered design that is a letter, so sorry, pardon. I have no idea what this is. You can buy designs that are letters already. I have no idea where that came from. But there's different ones that are available out there. I don't remember buying any of those. I don't know why those are there, but there you go.
So some software has the ability to map out a text, which then you can
bring that in as a font text and
Yes.
and do that. It takes some time.
It does.
So here, these are applique files, Mary. So I could bring in, so let's say my middle initial that I would use for the center, and I can open that, and then there is an applique. So you can see over here on the right that I have the 3 lines that I would need, my placement, my tack down, all of those different pieces and that stitch. And then I could go back and open the L that I need. This is not necessarily the greatest option. And then I can copy that and put that here and shrink that. Copy that and paste it because mine's the same. It makes it easy. So there's an applique option. So you can purchase those and bring them in and make a monogram as well. and then tweak the distance and all of those types of things if you would like to. Manually do that.
Yep.
So there's certainly ways that you can do that and play around with purchased files as well. So I hope that answered that question. So if you are looking at these files here and you want to make things really wonky, you can play with the text tools as well, right? And do some different things, all kinds of stuff in there. I wouldn't recommend what I just did, but there you go. I can do a whole lot of things once you get into the knowing what the software can do. I can go in and then really start playing and making it an individual type thing. So if I want to just take that A, I can make that A a fill stitch that has gradient blend in it. So it doesn't look very good, but you can see what that would look like. So let's make that just a hair smaller. That looks terrible. Let's change that. But I can make that different colors, different blends. All of these one-click wonder buttons give me the ability to change exactly what that would look like. So in this particular software, once I have, so you can see the type of pattern that's in here, and I can change that type of fill with all of these different things so that that looks very specific. So you can get really involved in how you want this to look. It's just a matter of what do you want to do.
Yes.
All right, so that is Floriani. You can do those kinds of things in Dime as well. The buttons are just in a different spot. Okay, so that is Dime and Floriani. This one here is called BES Blue, and what it is a very simplified version of BES 4, 3, those softwares. They are known for their lettering tools. So the monogramming on this is actually much more in depth than what you would get on some of the other ones. And even though it's a more simplified software. So if I come in and I click text and choose monogram and I click on the screen here, let's try that one more time because I was already on the screen there. I get a pop-up box on the right. So in the letters over here, again, I can write LFL. And then up here, I can choose the font. And I have all kinds of different fonts. I can see the change up at the top. So maybe I want the doodle. And if I choose something that does not have decor available, again, that will gray out. So if I want something that has a decor, you'll see, hey, there's actually that word decor in front of it. Crazy, that make that nice and simple, right? I can put a circle around it. And when I hit apply, then that will pop on screen. So there's all items. Let's just make that bigger so you guys can see that. So here is, yeah, I know I made it so it won't stitch nice. Thank you for telling me. So this, you can see that the decor is giving me a nice braided circle around that. And I have a nice satin stitch in the center for the monogram itself. So all of those things, I can change the height. I can change the sequence. I can change all of those things over here on the right. Maybe I decide I don't really like that circle, so I want to change it to this one. And I can go through and I can change all of those things. I can also say, you know, I don't like any of that, and I can change the font. So all of this is breaking down the little bits and pieces, and I can apply everything and change. So I can keep going through the different pieces. So that is one aspect. That is literally just hitting the text and going to the monogram piece. Another thing that they have on here is they actually have a monogram designing tool. When we click on here, this is what we lovingly call a wizard in a lot of the softwares. And what this will do is give you the ability to create different formats of monogramming. So it's a matter of what do you want the piece to look like, and then it asks you for that information. So here's kind of your traditional piece right here, all right? Or you can have a little bit less traditional, and notice what's changing over here on the right. All the way to the right, it is then asking me for those letters. So, so sorry, pardon. I can change, helps if I capitalize everything so it will look nice. And then I can hit apply. So there is, oops, shows you your mistakes too. So that doesn't look so hot, does it? All right. So in that font, it's not particularly looking nice. So I could keep going and I could change those different pieces until I see something that I like. And I can scroll through. Maybe I decide I don't really like the way that type of monogram looks. I can tell it to switch to one of these, so on and so forth. So we've got all of these different types and things that we can play with. You have the ability to actually break down the type of fonts, and it will separate that out in here so that you don't have to go through all of them. You can just say, I only want to look at scripts, or so on and so forth. So you can sort those. So that's very, very helpful. This will give you a visual of what is available in that font, which is really nice as well. We can change different size options so things can get bigger. So there's lots of different tools. And again, this is a wizard that can take you through. So even though this is a fairly simple software, there's a lot of power backed behind it when it comes to things with fonts, monograms being one of those things. So again, I'm not doing a lot of the details that are in here, just trying to give you guys an overview. But once we have whatever we've decided we like and we get into this, I'm still not crazy about that font. Oh, that looks terrible. Do you see anything you like? Swizzle. Let's try that. Swizzle. That's cleaner at least. So once you find what you like, then you can come over here, and then I'm just going to move it away so you can see. And you leave the wizard and come to this page, and then you can play like you could before with all of your text pieces. So you exit out of the wizard, and now you're in your main screen. You can resize, you can do all of the things that you could normally do. And yes, I know it wouldn't stitch out very well. So that is how you can very easily play in here. So that is what's called BES Blue. This actually comes with a few machines now, and it is available as a really nice base software. If you don't have any, it is a really nice
Yes.
little something. It's got a nice little powerhouse in a nice little package.
Yeah, it's also nice. Have we confirmed that this reads the new
We have not.
file extensions? We should look at that. Do you have anything on your computer that is saved from?
Somewhere. The problem is I wouldn't have a clue as to where.
Hey, Hayden. Could you do me a favor? Could you save a design from like the Luminaire onto a USB stick for us?
So under open, it's not coming up.
I wonder if it comes up under ins. Does this one have another option?
That's what I was looking for. So what we are looking for is to see if it could import the file from your machine, because this is a brother software. When you save a file from the machine itself, it saves in either a PHC or a PHX format. So what we were trying to spot was whether it would be able to export FCM, batch converter.
What about the batch converter?
So.
Doesn't look like it.
It doesn't look like it. We'll have to get back to you on that. Anyway, whether it does or doesn't, it's still a nice little powerhouse of a little software. It's pretty slick. So we'll keep playing with that and see. Moving on to another Brother software is the full version of, I'm like, what is that? That's behind it. That was weird. I wasn't ready to see that. So this is the full version of PE 11. And you can see that I have something on screen already. So I'm going to select everything and get rid of that there. So maybe.
It doesn't want to go
There we go.
away.
It doesn't want to go away, does it? All right. So when we go into our text, again, so you guys noticing a theme here, right?
Yep, monogram is in text usually.
There is a nice little monogramming symbol here as well. And we can select that. Again, we want to click on our workspace and we will get a cursor there. We've got a white box over here, just like we did before. And we would type in our letters that we want that to be. This actually, considering how much the BES has, this doesn't have as many fonts or things in it, at least that I have found, as I was expecting it to have. So I'm going to hit enter. It's going to pop on screen, and now I can play with it, right? So I've got these couple little, they have the M there for monogram. It says MG. I've got a diamond and I have a script. And then I have all of my other fun little fonts. So everything with a number is a font that came with the software, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, beginning of the month.
Oodles.
I don't know. And then everything with the TT are the ones that I have loaded in. And you can see I'm still on B here. So there's just a couple. So there's lots of options for me to pick from. It's just a matter of what I want that really to look like. But there's not a lot that are specifically monogramming in here for me to play with in here. So in this aspect, the BES actually has a lot more oomph there for you in the monogramming aspect. However, I can do quite a bit of playing with individual fonts, just like we had talked about with the Floriani or the Dime. So there is still quite a bit of ability to play there. Then, if I don't like that font, I can simply change it. I can play with it. I can resize. I can do all of those things that we have talked about before. It's just a matter of what do you want it to do. So changing the color, changing the fonts, all of that is just the same as what we have in all of our other pieces. So lots of ability to do those things. It's just a matter of really what do you want to do.
Yes.
Have anything to add?
No. Essentially a monogram is, anywhere from 1 to 3 letters. And traditionally what you have there is definitely old school tradition. Yep. I would say a lot of times these days, maybe it's not always the same style.
I think the single letter is much more common now than it ever used to be. You're seeing that way more, or the single letter with the full last name written through it, under it, something or other with that. You're seeing that way more often than what we've seen before.
Right.
It's becoming, the wedding gift with a monogram of his and hers names or those kinds of things. It's still very popular, but there is a little bit of a skew as to what's becoming more common.
Yeah. So just because the software says
you should do this
doesn't mean that that's what you have to do.
Not at all.
If you have any software, you probably have fonts.
Absolutely.
And even in the most archaic type of software, if you don't have the ability to, or you can't figure out how to break your design apart or something like that, you can always add 3 letters, and you can always then resize.
You can add them separately
That's
if that's
right.
the absolute worst case scenario. So in here, I have, this is still a font. So I have these little diamonds. I can click on that diamond, and then I can shrink each of these L's so that I'm making that look more like a traditional, so I can play is really what it is.
Yep.
So you can make them look anything like what you want them to look like. It's
Right.
just a matter of what do you want.
Right.
Is really the bottom line.
And honestly, if you have software and you're not playing with your fonts in your software,
You're missing out.
You really are. That is one of the best ways to learn how to use your software. There's
Yep.
and we've said this before, you won't learn your software if you don't open it up.
You got to click the buttons.
Even if you don't have any intention of actually stitching out what you're playing with. Honestly,
you don't have to. I play all the time and don't actually.
You need to actually just open the software.
Yep.
You need to build muscle memory on how to do that, because it will never get any easier if you don't open it and you don't touch the buttons and you don't see
Absolutely.
what happens when it explodes. And I'm kidding.
It won't explode.
No.
And we've always said, if you get somewhere you're like, I have no idea what I just did, no big deal. Close the program, reopen it, and start over. Just like on your embroidery machine. Just turn it off and turn it back on.
Right.
No big deal. The last thing that I wanted to show you isn't actually embroidery, but it's still software. And I briefly mentioned it earlier. This is the reason that I have so many fonts. And I do almost as much on my cutting machine with heat transfer vinyl and craft vinyl as I do in embroidery. And so I have this software that is called Craft and Cut, which is a Floriani software, R&K, whatever you want to call them. And this is a software that does specifically cut files. The only other thing that it does do is Applique. So I don't know, Mary, if you have this or not, but you can actually output Applique files out of here. So that is the one embroidery file that this software does do, and it does a very, very good job of it. So when you click on that monogram template piece up here, it opens up a wizard that looks suspiciously like that other one that we looked at earlier. So you get over here on the left, what type of monogram do I want to do? So if I wanted a 3-piece monogram, again, I can type in what do I have my caps on? Why do I keep, what am I'm having some problems today. There we go. I must have hit the caps lock at some point. All right. So this is on the Breezy font, and that's really not what I meant to do. Let's try that again.
We are having one of those days with electronics.
I am just not doing great today. Good Lord.
That's just kind of how the day started today. Wow. Everything I touched stopped working. You totally missed it when I went to embroider on the machine. I hit the start button, and as it turned out, I don't know what happened, but the bobbin case was like, it spun. And I'm like, this is a fantastic demo. Here's how you take this all apart.
So again, this is not embroidery. This is cut file, which I know a very large portion of you guys have scan and cuts. If you don't have a scan and cut, but you have a Cricut or any of those other things that we don't mention in general, this will work for that too. It exports SVG files and FCM files and all of those other files that all of these machines read. It will use all of those. So there are a ton of built-in fonts that came with this program. Plus, as I have already mentioned, I might have 1 or 2 of my own. So the font size I can change. I can change the distance later on. It does overlap these. So this one that I chose just happens to be an overlapping one that maybe is not the best option. That one looks really interesting. Why would I want that? Let's not choose that one. Let's try this one. So anyway, you can see that that will do a very clean piece. These are not stitches. These are just straight lines.
So you have the more ability.
More ability.
Yes, to make bigger or smaller pieces.
Bigger, smaller pieces, it doesn't matter. So if I were to make that super, super big, that's really still not very big.
You won't get that weird message.
I won't get a weird message that yells at me, and I can make that fit my screen. But what I can do is I can select one of those guys and...
why didn't they put the size on that software? It would have been helpful, wouldn't it?
It really would have. You know,
If
we
you're
can't ask for
listening.
everything. So I can break up the text and I can choose that item, which means it's now artwork. And artwork is what we can make whatever the heck we want. And I have this fancy dancy tool right up here that's this star. And I can turn something into artwork if it's not already there. So once it's artwork, I can come over here and click and make that applique. So there you go, Miss Mary.
She says, I do. I forgot about
Yep.
that.
So there, that's how you do that. So I know there is an applique font somewhere in one of these, but you don't actually need it. You can make any of these an applique. Just make them big enough that you're not going to complain and be like, oh my God, I can't cut that.
Right?
So,
Lisa said to do this.
Right? What was she thinking? But the key is you don't actually have to cut it, because not only can you make that an applique file, you can export the cut file out and have your craft and cut. You can have your scan and cut your applique piece that will exactly fit in.
There's a lot of cutting.
There's a lot of cuts. Anyway, this is actually a very, very cool software. I use it a lot. So this is, I mean, I have PE11, which will export scan and cut files. I have Floriani, which will export artwork files. I have Dime, which will export artwork files. I don't use any of those three to do that because I have this and this thing rocks. I do sometimes use the Brothers Canvas Workspace, only when I'm teaching a class that will then use it so that I can say, yes, I did it with that. Of course, you can use that free software to do that. Otherwise, I'm using this, and I use it a lot. It's that easy with the click of a button. So you can create a monogram with standard text and just resize it and make it whatever you want. There's a lot of split fonts out there, so you can take the last name initial or whatnot that has that bar through the center of it and then put the last name in there. So there's so many options. It's just a matter of what is it that you want it to do.
Yes.
So monogramming. Dun, da, da, da.
Yay!
You can also play a little bit
on your machine.
On your machine. So you can bring in, I would say personally, if you're going to do it on your machine, I would bring in the letters separately so that you have the ability to resize and play, because if you bring in all three letters together, you can't squish the outer two ones.
Right.
So bring them in separately and keep them all in the center, and then move the two that are,
yes.
So everything stays center, but you can squish. Anyway, bring them in separate letters. Don't try to make them all one piece, because then it's much, much harder to play. So, but you can actually do that right at the embroidery machine.
Yes.
And yes, I have done multiple classes on craft and cut in the store, and I will probably be doing that fairly soon. Software is one of the things that we'll probably start with, because it's going to be fairly easy to do in store, and
requires the least amount of space.
So, yeah, we'll be doing. Jean's planning on doing something, and we're working on it. So, we got one obstacle already met and checked off the list.
That's
so
right.
We are closer now than we have been before to in-store classes. I don't know exactly. We don't have a date yet, but we are getting closer. We have a few more hurdles to jump, but we're getting there. So yes is the answer, but I'm always happy to answer questions on that software if you have them and you bought it from us, I'm happy to answer it. So there you go.
Yeah.
But I love my craft and cut.
Yeah, lots of different choices for you to
Heck yeah.
create monograms with. And like I said, fonts are really easy in the software. Really good way for you to start learning about your software and can really up your game on your projects.
You know, fonts are one of the things that we hear probably the most. You know, I want to put a name on this. I want to put a name on that. I want to, you know, add a name to this or add a name to that or whatnot. So in monograms for gifts purposes, you know, it's so easy.
So easy.
It's so easy.
But SEW.
Absolutely. So easy. But yeah, I mean, you know, a set of towels and you put a monogram on it. It takes a gift that was.
Yeah, if it's not a monogram that you don't want to put on, you can put like the day of the week. Or I have seen a lot of people put top and bottom.
His and hers.
Yes.
All kinds of things. You can do so many things. And towels are, everybody needs towels because we all
get dirty.
We all get dirty and we all take a shower and wash our bums. So, you know, it's...
you don't want to wipe your top with your bottom.
Heaven forbid. I mean, goodness gracious. So, but yeah, so, you know, it's something very, very simple. And if you don't know how to stitch on a towel and how to stabilize that properly, there's a video.
We just did
that. So that was last week.
Yes, and we had so much fun, and so many people joined us.
Yes,
So
it was a great time, and there's been we've had many people say I couldn't watch it, but I've watched it twice since then, and we're like, twice? Sorry.
Thank you.
So
if you missed our stabilizer event, it is posted to our Facebook channel and our YouTube channel, and it's still there. And we do have just a few of our
of the bags left, so
yes,
you can still get in and be part of the Leabu Bag Club.
Yeah, and if you're not an embroiderer and you're still watching us, you should buy the bag anyways, because you want to be part of that bag bundle, and then you can just find a friend to gift your stabilizer
to.
to.
Gift a roll to this person and a roll to that person.
Because you will definitely, over the course of having
we have
that
birthdays.
membership, over the course of having that membership, you will definitely save more than the cost.
More than the cost of the bag.
That. And
Absolutely.
the sales each month are not strictly about stabilizer. They're accessories and fabric,
tools
and
needles, and
all kinds of stuff.
Oh my!
So absolutely, but we have a couple of those left, and should you want to participate, do it now, because they are either going to be gone or the sale is going to be over.
The sale will be over, and you won't be able to get in until next year.
Absolutely.
A whole year.
A whole year. You'll miss out on all of the great sales every single month.
Yep.
Not that we're trying to guilt you into it or anything.
We would never do that.
But we did send out our newsletter, and if you haven't received it yet, it is also posted to Facebook if you are on Facebook. And if you didn't receive it for some reason, reach out to us, because it might mean that you accidentally unsubscribed to our emails.
That does happen occasionally.
It does. Sometimes that unsubscribe button is in a weird place. But yes, it does happen. So you should have that in your email from yesterday, the day before.
It was Saturday.
Okay.
Saturday evening it went out.
Yep. And we sent one out today, just reminding everybody that we have just a few of those bundles left. Yep. And I think that's about it, right?
I think so.
All right.
All right. That's what we have for you today.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for the questions. And thanks for signing in and listening to us talk for that whole hour.
Yes.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
All right. Bye.